Welcome back to Health Moments with Dr. Ava. For those of you who are new to the show, or if you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Dr. Ava. I'm an internal medicine hospitalist. I'm an author. I wrote a book called Paging Dr. You. It hopes to inspire those who are considering going into the medical field. I'm also a mother to three beautiful children, a wife to another physician. I'm an influencer, and I coach future medical students as well. I'm hosting Health Moments with Dr. Ava for season 5 of the Hope TV. And as a reminder, always seek the advice of your own personal doctor. So today's show is about body. That's right, BODY. B for blood pressure, O for obesity, D for diabetes, and Y for yearly checkups. Now, why is that important? That's because many African Americans are negligent when it comes to their health. Those of us who have health insurance should use it to provide early detection and preventative care. Testing removes fear. It gives us the information we need to live a long, vibrant life. Our community suffers so much from undiagnosed high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, depression, prostate cancer, breast cancer, and so many more things, all of which are treatable and in some cases even curable or reversible if caught early. So, a little bit about blood pressure, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I have a guest coming on next, and it's interesting, and we'll talk about it more in detail. So, blood pressure. The prevalence of blood pressure in the African American community in the US is the highest in the world. Well, one of the highest in the world. More than 40% of non-Hispanic African American men and women have high blood pressure. That's pretty big. For African Americans, high blood pressure also develops earlier in life and is usually more severe. And you may ask why? Why is it happening earlier and why is it usually more severe? Theories include high rates of obesity, high rates of diabetes among African Americans. And also, researchers have found that there may be a gene that makes African Americans much more salt sensitive. In people who have this gene, a little bit of salt, even 1 extra gram, which is only half a teaspoon of salt, could raise your blood pressure as much as 5 millimeters of mercury. Diabetes in the US, Black adults are nearly twice as likely as whites to develop type 2 diabetes, and it's been rising over the last 30 years. Diabetes is a disease that occurs when your blood sugar or your blood glucose level is too high. Blood sugar is the body's main source of energy. Insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas that helps glucose get into your cells to be used for energy. In type 2 diabetes, your body doesn't make enough insulin or doesn't use insulin well. So then the result of that is too much blood sugar that stays in your blood, not enough reaches your cells, and over time, too much glucose in your blood can cause health problems such as heart disease, nerve damage, as eye problems, or even kidney disease. You can develop type 2 diabetes at any age. However, type 2 diabetes occurs most often in middle age and older people. You're more likely to develop it if you're 45 or older, have a family history, or if you're overweight or obese. And that brings me to the next thing, obesity. African American women in general have the highest rates of obesity or being overweight. They also have high rates of diabetes, cholesterol, all which are risk factors that can put you at risk for heart disease and stroke. In 2018, African Americans were 20% less likely to engage in physical activity as compared to non-Hispanic whites. Now let's dive into the yearly checkup. The yearly checkup is also known as your annual physical exam. That's where you get to meet your doctor. That's where you get to know your doctor, develop that relationship, ask all the questions that you need to ask. They check your blood pressure, your blood sugar. They may recommend you for colorectal screening, breast cancer screening, osteoporosis screening, high cholesterol screening, many other things. And because many people also suffer in silence due to behavioral health conditions, such as depression and anxiety, your yearly checkup might also include a behavioral health assessment. And like I said, it's the opportunity to get to know your doctor, bring all the questions that you may have about your ongoing health. You may want to talk about your anxiety, your depression. Do you want to quit smoking? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to change your diet? At that physical yearly checkup, I also recommend that you bring all the medications you take, prescriptions over the counter, or even supplements. Um, so that being said, as a small little summary of what we're getting ready to talk about, I want to introduce my guest, Bridget Randolph, who is a nurse practitioner and she's an advocate for healthcare in the African American community, so much so that she founded Prime Direct Care, which is a direct primary care model. Hey, Bridget, thank you for joining us.
Hi,
Welcome to the show.
thank you for having me.
So, tell us about you and tell us a little bit about your business.
All right, so Prime Direct Care was started in the midst of COVID last year. Um, it's a direct primary care clinic, which is different from our traditional healthcare clinics in that, our clients or our members, they pay a monthly membership fee, which covers about 85% of their healthcare needs. So when they pay, it's sort of like a gym membership. You pay your monthly membership, for the gym. You have access to the gym, access to the clinic, with no additional fees, no co-pays. You have unlimited office visits, in-person visits, telehealth visits to manage any chronic illnesses or acute illnesses that you may have. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, heart failure, and the list goes on and on. It could be just a simple thing like a cold, strep throat, a little rash. All those things are included in your monthly membership cost. So the way it's set up, there is no excuse to not, follow up on the things that you just mentioned: high blood pressure, diabetes, which is very important in our community. This model is very affordable. It starts at $49 if you are between the age of 12 to 18 years old, $75 from 19 to 39 years old, and $79 if you're over 40. So, you pay your 75, 79, or $49 a month, and you have unlimited health care service, primary care services. So it's not a health care plan, it's a health care service that is available to you when you pay your monthly membership fees. Does that make sense?
So pretty much what you're saying is to make it simpler and try to put in other words. When you see
Hmm.
your regular doctor in a regular model, you call, you make an
Hmm.
appointment, your doctor may be available, your doctor may not be available. You just have to book that appointment before you go and see your doctor. Okay. You may
Right.
have to pay for that visit. If you have health
Hmm.
insurance, you may have to pay a copay. Okay. And then you see
Correct.
your doctor whenever the doctor tells you to come back and see them. Whereas for your
Right.
model, for that small fee, you can come in and out as often as you need. You can have access, they have access to you directly. If they have a question or they
Correct.
need something, sometimes you are even available to go to them. So the accessibility is, a lot easier, right?
Correct. Correct. So the direct primary care model is based on affordability, easy accessibility, and personalized care. So those are three big points that you don't get with the traditional, model. When you make an appointment to go to a traditional clinic, you make an appointment, you have an appointment maybe a week, 2 weeks out. You go and you get seen, then you leave. You may not even be able to contact that provider, until you see them next time for weeks. You have to go through the nurse, the MA, and it's not very direct. But with the direct primary care model, patients have access to you directly. You're able to, provide better education. You spend enough time with them when they come in the clinic. Our visits are for a new patient is about 45 minutes to an hour. So your time is your time. We devote that personalized time for you so we can address all your issues. So, I think it's a very valuable asset for the African American community in the sense that we need a lot of education. when it comes to diabetes, high blood pressure, and all these chronic illnesses. Just going to the clinic and getting a script, to take care of your blood sugar or your high blood pressure is not enough. Come to the clinic, have a sit down, let's have a thorough education. Let's talk about the DASH diet, which is the low sodium diet. Let me show you things that you eat at home that you may not think about that has a very high salt content, so things like that you can do at home, not just taking medications, but kind of zone in on the lifestyle changes as well that would help manage that high blood pressure or that diabetes. So with direct primary care, the direct primary care model, we have time for that. We have time for you. Personalized care is everything. So I think it's a great model out there that, the community needs to be more aware of. You don't have to, spend top dollars for simple things like chronic illnesses or low sick visits. Now, don't get me wrong, health insurance is great when you need it. It's great for catastrophic events. Let's say you're driving on the highway and you have a major car accident, or God forbid, you got diagnosed with cancer and you need chemo. Those are the things that, health insurance is really good for. But to pay top dollar for simple primary care, our cute little visits, it just does not make sense.
Right, and that's
So,
very important because
mhm,
in our community, there's a issue. Trust, I think, is major. And that's one of the reasons why, African Americans don't go to the doctor. They don't trust their doctors. One, they the doctors. Two, they don't think the doctor has their best interest at heart. Three, there's not a lot of African American doctors that look like you and I, providers that look like us, that they would feel would be able to relate to them. So this model of yours not only allows you to spend more time with them, but they allow them to get to know you and you get to know them, so that when they pick up the phone and say, hey, I need this, I need that, or this and that is going on with me, you know them, they know you, they trust your advice, they follow your
mhm,
advice
mhm,
because they know
mhm.
you have their best interest at heart because of the time
Right,
that you're spending with them, because of,
correct,
the details of the examination and everything that you're teaching them. They're leaving the appointment feeling empowered about their health, their life, their condition, wanting to do better.
correct, correct. So yeah, it's a great model. So I think, people need to be more aware of it. Don't just sit home and say, well, I don't have health insurance, so I can't get my blood pressure or my diabetes checked out. There are alternative ways, easy, affordable ways. A few of my patients are actually have health insurance. And with those patients, they still pay their monthly membership fees, but we use their health insurance for anything else that I need to order. And, so, you don't have to just because you have health insurance does not mean that you can't come to me or go to any other direct primary care clinics, because you can still use your insurance for other things, if you have a direct primary care clinic that you are established at. So I don't want to exclude the people that have health insurance, because they need that hands-on, direct, personalized care as well. So it really works whether you have health insurance or you don't have health insurance. The main thing is that in a direct primary care clinic, you have the time, you have, the access, you have thorough healthcare management. So that's what we do at direct primary care clinics.
So I know you've seen a lot of men. Let's talk about the men now in the African American community, okay? Because the men in general are the ones who don't want to see the doctor at all. They're very reluctant to do that.
Hmm.
What's some of your advice as far as what you think could encourage the men to want to see your doctors? Or maybe what can the women in those men's lives do to help the men in their lives stay healthy? Or do you think that's our responsibility?
No, I don't think it's our responsibility as, women to, I mean, to take on another responsibility because I know we have a lot of responsibilities. But I mean, I think encouraging, your partner, letting them know how important it is. I feel like everything has to do with communication. So if they know better, they will do better. You know what I mean? So it starts in your home, as a spouse or a partner, just talk to your partner, let them know how important these things are and get them to educate themselves. And and once,
Women, as women, we are the ones that usually make the doctor's appointments for the kids,
mhm.
schedule the shop visits when it's time.
You can make one for your partner too.
That's what I was saying. Like, is it our
Yeah.
responsibility, you think, to just do an appointment and say, look, I made you an appointment to see Dr. So and so on this day, this time. And if you want me to come with you, I'll come with you.
I think it's a good thing, especially in the beginning, to kind of establish that care so that your partner can feel comfortable with the provider that they're seeing. I think once they develop a rapport and he's comfortable with who he's seeing, I think it's just gonna gel from there. I think it's that first step. So if you can help make that first step happen, that's all good. That's all good. I encourage that.
Right?
I
Because the
think
women
it will
too, we don't go see the doctor in our community, but I think the men are like way worse.
worse. Yeah,
Way
worse.
worse.
Hmm.
So, and that's why there are such high rates of heart disease and strokes and even end-stage renal disease. You know, a lot of us on dialysis, a lot of us on the kidney transplant list.
Yeah.
But so many of those conditions could be prevented or even reversed if you're following up, you're seeing your doctors on a regular basis. High blood pressure is a silent killer. You may feel great. You can even be somebody who goes to the gym, eat right, and still have high blood pressure, never know nothing about it because you're not going to feel a way until something bad happens. And a lot of times that bad thing could be a heart attack, it could be a stroke, it could be, kidney failure or heart failure. And I've seen that a lot at the hospital. So for high blood
You,
pressure itself, there are no signs. You may not tell. When there are signs, oftentimes it's very, very late.
it's too late.
So that's
It's too
why
late.
it's important to check with your doctor and have a follow-up appointment because you can find out that you have high blood pressure early on and change your diet or exercise more, lose some weight if you're a little bit overweight or obese, or even be put on medication if you have to. But those are
Yeah.
things that can prevent you from developing something that there's no point of return.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. I had a patient that signed up for my service and came in and said, "Oh, I'm very healthy. I just need to get a pap smear done, a wellness check done, and that's it. I don't have no healthcare problems." Well, she walked in here with a blood pressure of 220 over 121,
Oh
stroke
my
level
God.
high blood pressure. She felt fine, no
My
symptoms,
God.
nothing.
She could
I
have
had
popped the
held
blood.
her I held her in the clinic for about hour and 45 minutes trying to bring that blood pressure down with medications in office to at least get her down a little bit so that I can safely discharge her from the clinic and have her start antihypertensive medication. So you're absolutely right. There are no signs sometimes until, you talking to somebody one day and you have a face droop from a stroke that you had no idea was due to high blood
Right,
pressure. So yes,
right, right. Because there's too much
preventative
pressure
care.
in your blood vessels. And I always tell my patients when they come to the ER and their blood pressure is so high that we're having to start them on a drip. And I try to explain it to them in words that they can understand. When you have that pressure in your blood vessels around your brain, you have very tiny, fine blood vessels. And those blood vessels sometimes cannot handle the amount of pressure that's going through the blood vessels. So I always say,
Mhm.
think about a water hose. When you have a water hose and there's too much pressure going through the water hose will eventually burst or leak, and that water is going to start spilling around. Same thing for the blood vessel around the brain. with that pressure, then the blood vessel can't handle it and it bursts open. And now you start leaking blood all over your brain. And that's a
Yeah.
stroke. That's a type of stroke. It's a hemorrhagic
Yeah.
stroke. And that's something that
Yeah.
could have been prevented had you been
Hmm.
checked, put
Right.
on a
All right.
regimen, blood
Yeah.
medications. You can get heart
Yeah.
failure the same way. If you go to the gym and you're lifting weights, your muscles get big. The heart is a muscle
Hmm.
too. And the heart beats so many times per second, hundreds of times per hour. So imagine the whole day your heart is pumping against a pressure. Your heart will eventually get big, just like your muscles get big if you're lifting weight. And a big heart is a weak heart. That's heart failure. So that's two of the things that can cause you to have, end stage organ damage. That's oftentimes not reversible. And you have
Correct.
no signs or no symptoms until it's too late.
That
And that's the
happens.
danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the time, because they don't have symptoms, like this patient did not want to go to the ER because, with the blood pressure that high, really they needed to be seen in the ER to be on a drip to get the blood pressure stabilized. And then, but, you know, most of African Americans don't like to go to the doctor, don't like the hospital. So it's very challenging. So that's why I feel like, trying to focus on preventative care is the best route, to prevent serious complications, in our community in the future.
So let's talk about why there's a mistrust. Why are we the ones not wanting to go to the doctor? What's the problem?
That's a very good question. I I feel like we need education in the community. You know, I always believe, like I said earlier on, I feel like if you know better, you do better. I think, because they're not really understanding of what is happening internally when it comes to blood pressure or diabetes, or, they feel fine. I'm okay. Why do I need to go and see a doctor to fix something that's not broken? Well, that's not the case when it comes to medicine. It's being broken systematically, slowly within your system. You're not aware of it. So it's probably already broken. You just don't know that. So I think education, like campaigns, letting people, know what these issues are, what it means, what it can do. I think once they know better, they will take the initiative to do better.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit deeper than that too. It stems from, what happened in the past, the experiments that were being done on Black people without them knowing, the
Hmm.
Tuskegee experiment, and so many other things that ended up happening that a lot of the African American community is scared. They're scared that if they go to the doctor, it's not in their best interest, that the doctor is not going to really prescribe them what they need, but instead maybe run an experiment on them. They're just not trusting the medical system as a whole. But you can't blame them because of what happened in the past. And on top of it, it's not many Black providers, period. And so it's hard to relate to someone that you can't see yourself in. You know what I mean? So it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of education, like you say, but we need to do better because we're
Hmm.
dying at such early age. We're dying at a higher rate. We have more blood pressure issues, more diabetes issues. We're more obese. And if we don't do
Yeah.
something about it, then we're going to end up having major issues.
Yeah, and another very important thing to touch on in the youth, the Black youth these days, is that the focus is more on the exterior than the interior. It's all about like getting your hair done, making sure your face looks good, having liposuction to suck out the fat, but not really following through with proper diet, like everything with medicine. I mean, I need to go there because it's more evident. it's more evident these days
Yeah,
that,
we need to talk about that too. Yeah.
yeah, the exterior is more important than interior in the healthcare community these days. So I feel like we need to really educate the youth, because I know I shared with you, sometimes I'll go to the nail salon to get my nails done, and there will be women sitting next to me getting their toenails done, the pedicure done, with multiple funguses of their toes. I mean, and they have the nail technician put a fake nail over the fungus toe, and paint over it, instead of, getting care and making sure that
No.
toenail fungus. But it's all about the exterior.
Right.
They'll go and get liposuction done, come into the office and say, well, I had liposuction down, X, amount of months ago, and now I've gained 10 more pounds since then. And can you just give me a
Right.
pill to fix it? No,
Yeah, because
let's
they're
work
not
on
changing
what's
the
going
quality,
on
they're not
inside.
changing the lifestyle. They're trying to get a quick fix when really you have to change how you eat, you have to exercise more, be more active. It's a lot more that needs to be done to make sure that your insides is good, because then it radiates on the
Yeah.
outside.
Great, great. So spend the money on the insides. Don't focus more on the exterior. That's secondary. Take care of you, that high blood pressure, that diabetes, that heart failure, before you worry about what it is that you look like, on the outside. But it's reverse. So hopefully we can try to shift that and get back on track.
All right. Well, I want to ask you one more question. As you think
Sure.
about the future of your business, what are you most worried about? Because you are in
About the
healthcare,
future.
where
Mhm.
you do a lot of American community. So when you think, I mean, with your business, you have very good intentions to help the community, to educate the community, to change their mindset and the way that they live in general. What are you most worried about?
Well, my fear obviously is that people still don't catch on. I mean, my what drives me is, getting out there, letting people know about this service, letting people know you can take charge of your health without breaking the bank. I do want to reach, you know, my community, let them know about this service, let them know to be able to start, caring for them. So my fear is that, it's the status quo. Like, whatever I'm putting in, the time I'm taking to do everything that I'm doing, I'm still not reaching, the community like I want to. So, then it's work done is zero basically. I just want to make sure people are taking better care of themselves by knowing about these alternative, healthcare options out there, and actually signing up and doing something about their health. That's, at the end of the day, that's all I'm trying to do, is be of service to my community.
Agree. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, to learn more about Prime Direct Care, you can go to www.primedirectcaregA.com. We are located in Stockbridge. You can, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, call us, and we'll be happy to um, talk to you, do a free meet and greet, have you come shadow the clinic, talk to you about what it is that we can offer you, and hopefully, we have a mutual relationship that works for both of us. Fulfilling relationship, right?
Right. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, answering some of these questions, because those are very important topics. There's so much more to be said. Maybe one day we'll have you back to continue on this topic. But for now, in conclusion, In the US, racial and ethnic minorities have higher rates of chronic disease, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and even premature death than white people. Black patients, in particular, have among the worst health outcomes, experiencing higher rates of stroke, heart disease, cancer, even. And Black men have the lowest life expectancy of any demographic group, living on average 4.5 fewer years than white men. So, my recommendation would be get that checkup, check in emotionally, physically, and mentally for our community and for our future. Make that phone call and schedule that appointment to see your doctor, because you never know what you may find out at the end of that physical exam. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'll see you next time on the next episode.